Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is a story of what if Madara reveals himself to be Naruto's grandfather. He infused both his cells and Hashirama's cells into Naruto. Naruto becomes strong as a result, awakening the Sharingan and later the Rinnegan. Before we start, thank you for the support, it really means a lot to me. Don't forget to subscribe and leave like and check the description for the creator of this great fanfic and support them for making this fanfic. And now let us start. In this chapter there is going to be a change in character from Naruto when he fights. But other than that there are no changes. I made it necessary to make this change because, as you recall, in those early chapters Madara had said that he had succeeded in making Naruto a more like him. Disclaimer: I do not own Naruto. Chapter 6. The silent crowd. Konoha was buzzing with a lot of activities. Everyone within the village wore a smile. All problems were forgotten, everyone chose to be happy. It was as if heaven was showering the village with bliss. Business owners were somewhat those who the happiest of all. People from other villages had been inside the village and were buying a lot of things. More visitors meant more profits for them. Despite it being a profitable time, there was still competition with the businesses. Competition did not go away, it was what drove successful businesses. Most people were making bets. The finals of the Chunin exams had arrived. Some people just wanted to enjoy good fights while some wanted to enjoy the good fights while making some money off the tournament. No one could be blamed really for making bets, it was what made the tournament worthwhile watching. Well, the streets were full a few hours ago, but now they were all quiet. Only a select few could be seen within the streets of the village. The majority of people were gathered at the stadium which the finals are to be held. The stadium was full of people. There were no empty seats, each seat was taken. To some the stadium was a bit too small since not everybody could get inside the stadium. The Fire Lord as well as other leaders of other countries were also present at the stadium. Even some leaders of small villages were present at the stadium, all in the name of the Chunin finals. They were present to observe the next generation of powerful shinobi and also to see the strength of genins from other villages. Konoha had the most genins in the finals. It was good because it also gave them a chance to see if Konoha was still producing strong shinobis as it had been over the previous years. Naruto and the other contestants stood in the middle on the stadium where all could see them. They were the main attraction of the finals. Everyone had come to watch them battle, to see their prowess as genins, to see if they had what it took to become Chunin. They were also representing their villages. Performing well would bring glory to their villages, at the same time performing below-par would surely take a bite on the image of their villages. Potential customers and allies were watching, it was for the benefit of their villages to do well in front of them. Each of them had trained hard for the past month, readying themselves for the finals. Each was determined to win, it was obvious in each of the contestants' face. Nobody wanted to lose in front of the whole stadium. It would be hurting to a person's pride to lose while everybody was watching. Especially if one bragged about being a victor at the end of the tournament. Naruto stood with his hands crossed on his chest with an impassive look on his face. Nothing much had changed with him, only his hair had grown just an inch long. Naruto's hair grew at a faster rate while he kept himself hidden at the hideout than when he was at a place where the sun was welcomed. His hair still covered his right eye. He had trained a bit during the last weeks. What he had been doing most was perfecting his ninjutsu arsenal and better control over his Mangekyo Sharingan. He had yet to be a master of the Sharingan. He did not train his speed, he figured it was fine where it was at the moment. Today was one of the days that he would surely remember all his life, the day Konoha became aware of his heritage. It would certainly be worth smiling upon seeing the face of Konoha when becomes aware of his heritage. The Sandaime looked at Naruto with questioning eyes. Beside him was another man who was a Kage like him, the Yondaime Kage. Two men wearing Anbu gear stood behind the Kage, they were his bodyguards. The Kage was present as his genins had reached the finals. Sunagakur was the only great village to have participated in the exams aside from Konoha, who were the hosts. It was understandable, the others did not get well with Konoha. The look the Sandaime was giving Naruto was pushed because Naruto had disappeared from the village for 3 weeks after turning down Jiraiya. He was curious as to where Naruto had gone to after disappearing. He was positive that Naruto was not inside the village those 3 weeks. He had his Anbu search for him and the best sensors, but none were able to find him. His chakra signature had just disappeared without a trace. And they had not been able to get inside of Naruto's apartment, not even the Byakugan could see through the walls of the apartment. He had wondered how Naruto was able to make a seal that could make the Byakugan's abilities ineffective. From what he had observed, Naruto showed no mastery in Fuinjutsu. He did not have Jiraiya break the seal, seeing that Naruto would surely notice that they had broken into his apartment. He did not wish to unsettle the blonde any further. Jiraiya suddenly appeared behind the old Hokage with a grin planted on his face. He was to act as the Sandaim's bodyguard in duration of the finals. I told you he would return. Jiraiya said to his former sensei. The Sandaime smiled slightly without even looking back at Jiraiya. He had been thinking that Naruto had abandoned the village. Jiraiya had said he was sure that Naruto would return to the village. Jiraiya was indeed right, Naruto had returned today for the finals. I guess you were right, though I still wonder why he would disappear like that without telling anyone. He said, is everything set? He asked, still smiling. Yes. Jiraiya replied with a nod. Jiraiya had found out that Orochimaru was planning to invade the village during the finals. They had made preparations to encounter the threat. The Sandaime nodded. Good, he said, his eyes focusing on the arena. It certainly is lively in here. Don't you agree, Hokage Dono? The cage suddenly spoke. One could not see his face clearly due to the cage robe he wore. The Sandaime looked at the cage and smiled. It certainly is. Before the conversation between the two cages could go further, a man appeared before the Hokage. He had shoulder-length brown hair which hanged about his face with brown eyes. He wore a forehead protector like a bandana, and a standard Jonin outfit and a senbon in his mouth. Should I start with the finals, Hokage-sama? The man asked. The Sandaime nodded in approval. All the contestants were already present along with other important people. There was no need to keep the crowd waiting any longer. He was surprised though that Kakashi had brought Sasuke in time for the finals. He had thought that the Jonin would be late along with Sasuke, that was why he had made preparations for Kakashi to be looked for if he did not appear in time. He could not be faulted about that given Kakashi's laid-back attitude. Genma stepped forward and jumped at the middle on the arena just in front of the contestants. He smiled at them before looking back at the crowd, which had become settled. Welcome everyone, he said loudly for everyone to hear him. My name is Genma Shiranui, proctor of the finals. I would like to welcome you all to Konoha's Chunin selection exam finals. Genma yelled out to the crowd who welcomed his words with cheers. We will now begin with the matches between the contestants that have worked hard and reached the finals of this tournament. Genma said and made his way over to the proctor's seat. He looked at the contestants of the first match, Uzumaki Naruto, Hyuga Neji. The rest of the contestants please go back to the contestants' booth. The rest of the contestants left the arena. Sasuke shot Naruto a glance before leaving. He had trained hard and gotten strong during his time with Kakashi. He wanted to test the power he had attained against Naruto. Naruto was someone he was sure would give him a good fight. He had always wanted to fight Naruto. The exams had brought a good chance for him to fight the blonde. Genma looked between Naruto and Neji. Naruto still had his impassive expression. Neji had the same expression as Naruto. The rules are the same as the ones that applied during the preliminaries, Genma said. First match of the Chunin exam finals, Uzumaki Naruto vs Hyuga Neji. Genma yelled, begin. He yelled, motioning with his hands for the genins to begin the first match. Naruto unfolded both his hands from his chest. Before the exams, Zetsu had told him something he had taken into account. Genins did not give him a match. Only a select few could land a hit on him. He had always ended a match quickly because it annoyed him dragging himself against someone who can't land a hit on him. Zetsu had told him that if he did not want to get bored with fights he should at least play with his opponents. Or he would get bored with most of the fights he fought. Zetsu was basically telling him to give his opponents false hope and then crush that hope mercilessly. It was the same tactic Orochimaru used. But Orochimaru had a tendency to underestimate his opponents. It was a blunder he would hope to avoid given his current level of power. The crowd began to mutter in anticipation. Some were picking who would win the match. Some were gunning for the Hyuga prodigy, while a select few gunned for Naruto to win. The air in the arena was thick as Neji stared at Naruto blankly. He was confident he could win the match. He was a prodigy after all, and anyone who was fated against him was fated to lose. A clone puffed into existence beside Naruto. He took a few steps back and sat down Indian style with his eyes closed. Zetsu's advice weighed down a bit, but he would test his opponent's strength with a clone before fighting himself. He would rather not waste his energy fighting someone who could not defeat his clone. If Neji could defeat his clone easily, he would have his fun just as Zetsu had advised him. Fighting Neji would give him a chance to experiment. The clone Naruto had made was a solid clone. It had little chakra, as Naruto did not want it to drag the fight for too long. Neji seemed insulted by Naruto's actions. Anyone would have been insulted. "What is this, aren't you going to fight me?" Neji asked, looking at the real Naruto. Naruto stayed as he was while his clone spoke, "I will. But that is if you defeat me. I'm just a clone, one hit and I will dispel." The clone stated impassively. The clone's words drew question marks all over the stadium. People were wondering if it was just arrogance to say something like that. Neji was a prodigy and he could surely defeat a mere clone. None felt more insulted than Neji. But the Hyuga was able to contain his anger. He did not think that Naruto would have the guts to do something nor say something like that. He was not expecting it. But he would not be shown up by someone who was once considered a dead last. Byakugan. Neji yelled as veins around his white eyes bulged. Neji ran towards the real Naruto, ignoring the clone. He could not waste time with the clone when he could fight the real person. What Naruto had done was an insult to his skills and his pride as a shinobi. To make him look like he was not worth an effort to fight and have him fight a clone instead was degrading. He could not allow anyone make him sink any lower than that. Naruto stopped Neji in his tracks by standing in his way. If he wanted to make the real one fight, he had to defeat the clone. With a fighting style of the Hyuga can, his speed would have to keep his distance because a single hit from Neji would destroy him. He was faster than Neji, that would prove to be an advantage to him, but he was not as fast as the real one. Fighting a Hyuga was not a good thing for a clone. The chances of being destroyed in a single direct hit were high. Neji glared at the clone before raising his palm, which was glowing with chakra. He tried to hit the clone Naruto at the chest. The clone jumped back, dodging the blow. Neji wasted no time, he dashed at the clown, making it jump away from him again. "Are you going to keep running away from me?" Neji asked while getting into his clan's Taijutsu style, the Gentile Fist. The clone responded by charging at Neji. It swung its right leg when it had reached the genin. Neji crouched down to avoid the kick and raised his palm to try hitting the clone. The clone disappeared suddenly and appeared behind Neji. Neji spun around quickly to block the oncoming punch sent towards him by the clone. "The Byakugan gives me clear view of the battlefield. I can see your attacks." Neji stated, his hands still blocking Naruto's punch. The clone responded by making a distance between itself and Neji. It looked at the real Naruto for a second. A second was what Neji needed, as he suddenly appeared before the clone, hitting it with his palm and sending a chakra pulse at the clone's chest, making it disappear in a puff of smoke. But not before saying something more to itself than to Neji, "I let my guard down." Neji smirked and turned around facing Naruto. Naruto was already standing up looking at Neji blankly. "I have defeated your clone easily. It did nothing but delay the inevitable," Neji said arrogantly. Naruto gave no response to Neji's words. Neji got back into his taijutsu stance. "Fate has deemed that you will lose against me. You were once considered a dead last at the academy, but now you are not. I don't believe that you are no longer a dead last. You are still a dead last running away from his fate, but no one can escape fate, as fate cannot be changed." Neji spoke impassively. "What you are now is a mask hiding what you once were called at the academy, a dead last. I will defeat you today and remove that mask, exposing who you truly are, a dead last." Neji said, believing that he could defeat Naruto and remove his mask. Naruto responded by holding a single hand seal. "Fire release. Great fire ball," Naruto muttered as he breathed out a large fireball that sped at Neji. The fireball was twice as big as that which Sasuke could make. Neji, seeing that if the jutsu hit him he would be toast, literally, made a quick escape without getting hurt. Sasuke had wide eyes upon seeing Naruto do his favorite jutsu with one hand seal. It bothered him greatly that Naruto could do that jutsu better than him. He had never seen Naruto do that jutsu. Naruto had never shown any skill to use ninjutsu before. Performing the fireball jutsu with a single hand seal meant that he was accustomed to doing the jutsu and had mastered it. It infuriated him. He was an Uchiha. All Uchihas were supposed to be masters of the great fireball. The jutsu had originated from the Uchiha clan after all. It was unacceptable to see someone do the jutsu better than he could. So he is going to reveal his true power, the Sandaime thought with a smile. He too was a bit surprised that Naruto could perform the fireball jutsu with a single hand seal. It would not have been surprising had it been an Uchiha. Uchiha clan had a natural affinity to fire release, so it would not be surprising. This is certainly turning out to be interesting. I heard that Uzumaki did not display any skill in ninjutsu. But seeing him perform a jutsu like that makes me curious. The Kazekage said to the Hokage, curiosity dripping from his tone. He was wondering why Naruto did not use any jutsu at the Forest of Death. Both Jiraiya and the Hokage nodded but offered no words. They just wanted to watch what Naruto could do. Back at the fight, after dodging the fireball, Neji appeared several feet away from the jutsu. Naruto suddenly appeared before Neji. Neji was shocked as he was caught off guard. He had not been expecting Naruto to attack him after sending the fireball jutsu at him. He had not even seen Naruto move. "You are really annoying when you start talking," Naruto stated impassively. Neji had been expecting him to attack him given that he had been caught off guard. If Naruto had attacked when he had appeared before him, he would have hit him since he was in no position to defend. He was not a bit curious as to why Naruto did not try to land a blow on him. Neji glared at Naruto for saying he was annoying. He smirked. "You had an opportunity to let a hit on me, but you did not use it. Such an opportunity will not come again, and I will make you regret it," Neji said impassively. His palm rushed at Naruto's left shoulder. Naruto shifted aside to avoid Neji's hit. Looking at Neji's face, he was positive that Neji was not going to stop with his attacks. Neji tried hitting his right shoulder. Naruto dodged, forcing Neji to try to hit another target. Naruto dodged all of the attacks while his eyes were firmly on Neji. He might not have worked on his speed before the finals, but he was still fast. His speed was the reason Neji could not land a hit on him. Naruto jumped back, creating a distance between himself and Neji. He was doing his best to avoid being hit by Neji's attacks. It would be rather troubling if he were to have his chakra paths blocked. Neji's strikes aimed at blocking his chakra paths. If his chakra paths were blocked, it would make him immobile. But at least for him, for moment, having his chakra paths blocked was something he could deal with. Neji ran at Naruto at a faster speed than before. His hands were still glowing with light blue chakra. To his shock, Naruto's hands began to glow with chakra. One had to have good chakra control to be able to do what Naruto had done. Neji had been moving at a faster speed than Naruto had thought he would. But it did not mean that he could not handle it. Naruto blocked Neji's attempt to hit him at the chest with his hand. It was laced with chakra to prevent its chakra pathway from being blocked. Naruto continued on to block Neji's attacks for 4 minutes straight. He only received 2 hits on both his shoulders, but he dealt with it quickly by forcing chakra to pass through the blocked pathway. It was a rather uncomfortable process. But other than that, he had no injuries or bruises. Neji, on the other hand, was slightly worn out. He was also frustrated because he had failed to give Naruto an injury. All his attempts to hit Naruto had been fruitless. Naruto suddenly gripped Neji's right hand. He held it tightly, making Neji wince. Naruto spun around along with Neji. Neji spun around in air while his hand was held by Naruto. He knew that Naruto was going to release the hold on his hand. But if Naruto did that, it would send him flying. Naruto let go of Neji's hand. But before Neji was thrown away from him, he hit Naruto's right hand, making it immobile. Neji was sent crashing towards the wall. He recovered quickly, but his body slightly bruised and his clothes slightly tattered. He got up and looked at Naruto. His eyes could see that Naruto's hand was immobile because he had blocked its chakra pathways. "Your right hand is immobile now. With only one usable hand left, I will easily remove that mask you wear," Neji said with a smirk. Crowd Sakura looked down at the stadium. Beside her were Kiba, Shino, Hinata, Ino, Tenten, and the 3 Jonin senseis of Team 7, 8, 10, and Team Guy, Hitaki Kakashi, Yuhi Kurenai, Asuma Sarutobi, and Maida Guy. Doesn't Neji realize that Naruto is not wearing a mask and the dead last was the mask? Sakura asked particularly to no one. I don't think he does. Ino replied, her eyes firmly at the battlefield. The Jonin just continued watching, each with different thoughts in their heads. Kakashi was wondering about something. Naruto did not seem to be fighting the way he usually did. Normally Neji would have been lying somewhere with a broken body at this given. But the fight had been going on for a while and still Naruto had not landed a hit on Neji. To trained eyes one could tell that it was not because he could not, but because he did not want to. Kurenai saw Kakashi's thoughtful expression. What is it, Kakashi? Something seems to be wrong here. Naruto is stronger than Neji, that much I know, but why he is not ending the fight is making me curious. I have watched Naruto fight many times and he never plays when he is fighting someone with genin strength. Kakashi replied. Kiba responded before Kurenai could respond. What are you talking about, Kakashi-sensei? Can't you see that Neji has Naruto on the defensive? He said. After Naruto had humiliated him at the preliminaries he had learned to resent the blonde. Naruto had beaten him like he was a fly. Guy shook his head. Naruto seems to be holding back for some reason. He is on the defensive because he wants to, not because Neji is forcing him. Guy stated, observing the fight. Why? He did not seem to be capable of holding back at the preliminaries. Kurenai asked. It is most likely he is just playing with Neji. But that would be out of character for him, Kakashi said. Let's just watch and see what happens. He said, getting the Jonins to nod in agreement. Back to the fight, Naruto sighed inwardly and forced chakra on his right hand to open up the blocked chakra pathways. He was better at controlling his chakra because of his Senju DNA. Senju were known to have had perfect control over their chakra. It was easy to unblock his chakra pathways. He disappeared and appeared in front of Neji. He did not attack just as he did last time. Neji smirked as he stared at Naruto. He would make the blonde rue his choice of not attacking him while he could. You are within my range. Neji stated. 8 trigrams 64 palms, Neji said, his fingers going at Naruto's body. 2 palms, Neji said as his hands hit Naruto. 4 palms, 4 hits at Naruto's shoulders blocking his tenketsu points. He hit Naruto with his strikes until he reached 64 strikes. Naruto had taken each strike without trying to block. Remarkably, he was still standing, only his shoulders were slumped and his eyes were staring down at the ground. I have hit you with 64 strikes. Your body should not be able to move. I suggest you stay down and accept what fate has decided, Neji said. You were fated to lose this match and thus you have lost. Naruto's eyes left the ground and traveled towards Neji. Neji spoke again, seeing Naruto look at him. Give up, you have no power to defeat me. Neji said, believing that his opponent was weaker than him. It was not fate that you hit me, Naruto corrected. You only hit me, because I wanted you to, as I wanted to see what would happen if your technique hit me. The whole stadium was silenced by Naruto's proclamation. Some hung their mouths open while others blinked several times and a few just raised their brows. It was just unbelievable to them. No one would dare take on those hits just to see what would happen. That would be unless he was shot of a few brain cells. You are lying. Even if you let yourself be hit, the damage is done. I can see your tenketsu points are blocked with my eyes. Neji said, not believing that Naruto had let himself be hit. Naruto released a wave of chakra, forcing his tenketsu points to open. The chakra he released picked up debris around him for a moment before the dust cleared. Naruto stood still, his tenketsu points now opened with his eyes fixed on Neji. Naruto closed his eyes and opened them, revealing a fully matured Sharingan. A Sharingan he had managed to keep hidden from everyone within the village. Well, the crowd could only see his left eye as his right was hidden by his hair. Everyone within the stadium was shocked. In everyone's wildest dreams they had never imagined Naruto with a Sharingan, the dojutsu of the Uchiha clan. It was a sight that many had never expected to see. Some did not actually care, they just wanted to see a good fight. Visitors from other villages were greatly surprised as they had heard that the Uchiha clan was massacred. Only a few outside of Konoha knew that there was one survivor, Uchiha Sasuke. While others were shocked, Sasuke was both shocked and infuriated. Naruto was no Uchiha. It meant that if Naruto had the Sharingan, it had to have been implanted. He refused to accept people who implanted his clan's dojutsu on themselves. It was different with Kakashi because Kakashi had his given to him by his dying friend. He did not know where Naruto got his. Naruto, Sasuke growled to himself with his Sharingan activated. Unlike Naruto's, his had yet to fully mature, it only had 2 tomos in each eye. Everyone beside him could see he was shaking in anger. Sasuke was about to storm into the battlefield and demand answers from Naruto, but Shikamaru quickly restrained the young Uchiha with his shadows. He was also curious, but storming in there would only disturb Naruto's match. He was not sure if Naruto would welcome someone disturbing his match. "Let go of me, Shikamaru!" Sasuke yelled, trying to break free from his restraints. "This is troublesome," Shikamaru said, his hands held together as he did not let loose of his jutsu. "Calm down, Sasuke, Naruto will come back here after his match. You will get to question him then." "No, I want answers now," Sasuke yelled out again. The situation was becoming somewhat comical as the other participants were snickering at Sasuke's frustrations. Kakashi seemed to have known what was happening as he suddenly appeared in the contestants' booth. He had figured that Sasuke would overreact seeing Naruto wield a Sharingan. Kakashi touched Sasuke's shoulder. "Calm down, Sasuke, I'm sure Naruto has a good explanation." He tried calming his student. Sasuke glared at Kakashi, but he was no longer trying to escape from his restraints. "Did you know?" he demanded. "No," Kakashi replied as he shook his head. Sasuke said nothing. His eyes traveled back to Naruto as he settled for glaring at the blonde. Cage booth. The Kage had wide eyes. His eyes were bigger than the Hokage's, who also had wide eyes. It was unbelievable that Naruto had the Sharingan. He quickly got over his shock and laughed maniacally inwardly. Naruto was proving to be quite an interesting person. The Sandaime and Jiraiya were obviously shocked as everyone else. They had not even suspected that Naruto could have the Uchiha clan Dujutsu. The Sandaime could not believe that Naruto had hid something that from him and from the whole village. "I thought there was only one survivor of the Uchiha clan massacre, Hokage Dono." The Kage spoke, snapping the Sandaime out of his thoughts. "There is only one survivor," the Hokage replied with his eyes firmly placed on Naruto. "Then how come Naruto has the Sharingan?" "I don't know, I don't really know," the Sandaime Hokage replied, shaking his head. Anyone could see that he was being honest. The Kage decided to drop it, seeing that the Hokage knew nothing. Back to the fight. Naruto ran at Neji at Jonin level speed. He reached the genin and swung his right leg high, trying to kick Neji at his temple. Neji crossed both his hands and blocked the kick. The kick had much power to send any genin flying, but Neji was not just any genin. He was only pushed back a bit, but told himself never to try and block another kick from Naruto. Naruto brought his feet down and raised his left leg waist level high. He tried kicking Neji at his waist, but Neji jumped back to avoid being hit. Naruto stopped with his attacks for a moment and stood still as if he was strategizing. The crowd had now gotten over their shock and were watching the fight with anticipation. It was now proving to be interesting as Naruto was now attacking Neji. Neji seemed to be blocking Naruto's attempts. Neji ran at Naruto with his right arm stretched forward. He tried hitting Naruto's chest, but Naruto sidestepped the attack and gripped Neji's arm. Neji swung his free arm trying to hit Naruto. His attempt forced Naruto to let go of his arm and jump back. Naruto dashed towards Neji and seemed to passing him. But he suddenly spun around with his leg swinging at Neji. Naruto kicked Neji on his face, sending the genin flying away. Neji recovered quickly by flipping in midair. But when he landed down the ground, a hard kick to the chest welcomed him and sent him crashing towards the wall. Gah! Neji grunted as he hit the wall hard, creating a dent. Naruto gave the genin an opportunity to recover. The results would be the same regardless of what action he took. Neji got up and glared at Naruto. Naruto hit as hard as Lee. But Lee hit harder because of the weights on his legs. He rushed at Naruto again, but this time with both his hands stretched forward. Hit tried hitting Naruto, but Naruto jumped back. He could predict Neji's moves before they reached him. And because he was faster than Neji, it became impossible for Neji to hit him. Naruto blurred out of sight and appeared before Neji. With almost 360-degree view of the battlefield, Neji was able to see Naruto. He turned around quickly but was unable to block or dodge a kick to his chest. The kick connected with Neji's chest and sent him flying. Naruto appeared above Neji while he was still in air and brought his hands together. He smacked the genin down the ground. Neji was sent crashing down like a bullet. He hit the ground hard and created a crater. Neji's crash created debris where he had crashed. Remarkably, when the debris cleared, Neji was still standing, but his body was bruised and he was bleeding, albeit not profusely. He seemed to be out of breath as he was breathing heavily. He did not like where things were going, but he refused to be beat. Fate could not be changed. Naruto had been fated to be defeated by him, and he would make sure of that. Naruto rushed at Neji and attempted to gut him. Neji dodged the attempt, albeit barely. He was not given time to catch the breath that was escaping him as Naruto appeared in front of him and kneed him on the gut. Neji coughed bodily fluids while clutching his stomach in pain. The crowd was cheering, seeing the turnaround of events. Naruto stared down at Neji, who was now on his knees still clutching his stomach. There is no such thing as fate. Fate is something you created on your own ideals to escape from your miseries. Naruto said, his tone and facial expression never changing. Neji stopped clutching his stomach and glared at Naruto. You know nothing about misery. He spat. My life has been fated to become a servant to the main branch. As far as I could remember, I have been branded with this, Neji said, removing his forehead protector. There was a seal on his forehead. Naruto knew what it was. It's the caged bird seal. I will live with it and die with it. That is my fate. And your fate is to lose to me, Neji said as he tried hitting Naruto in anger. Naruto punched Neji on his face, sending him flying away from him. Neji winced as he felt the pain the punch inflicted on his body. He hit the ground and gathered his strength to get up. He was still breathing heavily and was now bleeding from his mouth. Despite his condition, he got into his Taijutsu stance, signifying that he could still fight. Naruto ran towards Neji, but when he reached Neji, he sensed a buildup of chakra from Neji. He did not stop trying to kick Neji though. Kaden. Neji yelled as he began to spin furiously, and while he released chakra from his tenketsu points. The chakra he released created a dome of chakra that rotated around him at a fast speed. Naruto's foot hit the spinning chakra and was sent back. He flipped in midair and landed down the ground. That was unexpected, he said to himself. Neji stopped spinning, releasing his defense jutsu. He smirked at Naruto. This is my ultimate jutsu, the ultimate defense jutsu. With this you cannot touch me anymore, he said confidently. Those of the Hyuga clan had wide eyes seeing Neji perform the Kaden. It was a defense jutsu only taught to the skilled members of the main branch. For Neji to learn the jutsu on his own only proved that he was truly a genius. No one could doubt that he was indeed a prodigy of the Hyuga clan. But despite his skill, he was facing someone who seemed to be beyond his level. Ultimate defense, you say? Naruto said. Shall we test that? The way Naruto spoke made Neji wish he did not say the Kaden was an ultimate defense. Naruto did a single hand seal. Fire release. Great fireball. Another large fireball sped towards Neji faster than the first one. It was just as big as the first. Due to Neji's current condition, he could not escape the jutsu by running away from it. Naruto was aware of that. The only way for Neji to defend himself was to use his Kaden. Neji saw the fireball coming towards him. Kaden. He yelled as he activated his defense technique again. Both techniques clashed, but the Kaden held on. Naruto ended his jutsu, allowing Neji to do the same. Neji was breathing heavier than before and was barely standing. The Kaden was taking a toll on him. The Kaden had passed Naruto's first test, but barely. Naruto held another single hand seal again, readying for another jutsu. Fire style. Dragon flame caterwaul. Naruto yelled as 5 small flame fish-like creatures with 2 large fangs raced at Neji in 5 different directions. It was a jutsu Naruto had learned from Madara. All creatures seek out their targets till they hit. The only way to stop them was to make them hit something. Neji gathered his remaining chakra and called upon the Kaden again. One by one the flame dragons hit Neji's defense. When each hit, it exploded and the fire it created became one with Neji's rotating dome of chakra. Neji realized this when he felt the heat rise up and stopped spinning to avoid being burned to death by his own jutsu. But he did not get away without suffering slight burns on his clothes and skin. Neji fell on his knees while sweating and breathing heavily. The heat that had surrounded was too intense for him. His chakra was also spent. It is not a perfect defense, thought Naruto to himself. He decided to try another jutsu. He had yet to try it while fighting with someone other than his clones. Neji provided him the opportunity to test the jutsu. He flashed through several hand seals and expanded large amounts of chakra, well to others who did not have much chakra as Naruto had. Fire style. Majestic flame destroyer. Naruto breathed out an unimaginable wave of flames that covered the whole space in front of him, reaching the walls of the arena in width. The wave of flames went straight at Neji, who had wide eyes like everyone inside the stadium. Only the Sandame had seen a fire jutsu that big. Despite it being big, it was not as big enough for Naruto's liking. Still, the flames were powerful enough to incarnate everything they touched. The flames burned everything on their path as they made their way towards Neji's position. The heat of the flames was too intense as everyone close to the battlefield felt the heat. Neji began to fear for his life. He could no longer do the Kaiden. He also could not escape to anywhere, the flames had blocked each path he could take. Backwards was the wall, he could not go anywhere. He closed his eyes as the flames reached him. Naruto ended his jutsu and narrowed his eyes behind him. Genma was holding Neji with both his arms. He had saved the genin, but at some cost. His upper right side of his body was burned by the flames. He knew that if he had allowed Neji to be hit the flames would have burned him to ashes. He was the proctor and could not allow necessary deaths to occur while he watched one ed. Neji was now unconscious, it was because of chakra exhaustion and some shock. He had thought he was going to die. Genma placed Neji down the ground and ignored his burns. He looked at Naruto, who was still in the same position as he was. He had yet to move, only his eyes narrowed at Genma. Genma let loose of a sigh of release after a few moments. When the flames hit him, he thought he too was going to die. But he had made it. It looked like Naruto was trying to kill his fellow genin. First match of the Chunin exam finals is over. Genma trailed off, remembering that the Sandame had said he would announce the winner of this match. He looked at the Sandame, nodding for him to speak. The Sandame stepped forward and cleared his throat. He was going to say something important. The crowd had already been shocked once, but he had to do it for the sake of the village. Naruto turned around. He was the victor of the match. His Sharingan was still activated as he walked towards the contestants' booth. No one was cheering, the stadium was just full of mummers. Winner of the first mock namikaze Naruto. The Sandame said in a loud voice. Naruto stopped walking and narrowed his eyes at the Sandame. His Sharingan morphed into its Mangekyo form for a second before returning back to normal. That was something he was not expecting the Sandame to say. He had figured the old man would eventually announce his other heritage to Konoha, but did not think he would do it anytime soon. The Sandame might have done it to free himself from the secret, but there was another ulterior motive. Naruto knew that. When Konoha came to accept that he was indeed the son of the Yondaime Hokage, they would start to love him. When loved by the villagers, he would have no reason to abandon the village. What? Some yelled out in disbelief upon hearing that Naruto was a namikaze. The thought that he wielded the Sharingan had escaped their minds. Others stared at Naruto with wide eyes, cursing themselves for not seeing it. There was only one person to have had bright blonde hair and blue eyes, the Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Naruto was like a chibi Minato, and yet they could not see it. It would now explain why the Yondaime had chosen Naruto as the Jinchuriku of the Kyuubi. The majority of people thinking those thoughts were the ones to have never hated Naruto. While those few that still hated him refused to believe it. Despite their refusal to believe, one could not deny the resemblance. One woman stood up from her seat and clapped her hands. Soon another person joined her, they were followed by almost everyone at the stadium. Naruto walked away towards the Constance booth. The only reaction he gave towards the reaction of the crowd was a raised brow. After Naruto had reached the contestants' booth, the clapping of hands and cheers were replaced by mummers. Naruto stopped walking when he saw Sasuke in his way with a death glare. Naruto brushed aside the glare and decided to just walk past Sasuke. Sasuke was not going to let him off without getting answers he needed. Naruto, Sasuke called out, stepping in front of Naruto again, "Where did you get that Sharingan?" Sasuke demanded. Naruto's face remained impassive. "How did you get your Sharingan, Sasuke?" Naruto replied with a question. Sasuke, in his current mindset, did not fully understand Naruto's question. "Answer me, Naruto." Sasuke yelled, his death glare intensifying. "I just did." Naruto responded nonchalantly. Shikamaru spoke before someone got hurt. "Calm down, Sasuke," Shikamaru said in his usual bored tone. "Naruto answered your question. He asked you how you got your Sharingan. The answer is you awakened it like any other Uchiha. What Naruto is saying is that he awakened his Sharingan, that's how he got it." but leads to more troublesome questions. Shikamaru spoke while other contestants watched on. Awoke. How? You are not an Uchiha. The Hokage just said you were a Namikaze, not Uchiha. Sasuke said while still glaring at Naruto. Naruto had no time to play the interrogi with Sasuke. Believe what you will, but my eyes were not implanted, he said. Now then, get out of my way or I will make you. His face remained impassive, but the tone he used could send chills to anyone. Sasuke stepped aside and allowed Naruto to pass. Naruto wanted to watch the next match. Sasuke looked away from Naruto, emotions welling on his features as thoughts ran rampant within his head. Naruto had just said his Sharingan was not implanted, meaning he had to have Uchiha blood running through his veins. His father was not an Uchiha, which if he truly had Uchiha DNA in his body he got it from his mother. Still, the thought of Naruto being an Uchiha brought him a lot of emotions. Temari eyed Naruto with thoughts running through her head. Being the son of the Yondaime Hokage made Naruto someone like royalty. But judging from what she had seen of him so far, he did not seem to act like one nor tried grabbing people's attention because he was the son of the Yondaime Hokage. In fact, he looked distant, unattached to anything, as if he did not care about anything else around him. Cage booth. Well, that was certainly interesting, the match itself rather than the secret you have just revealed, Hokage Dono. The cage spoke, clearly interested. Naruto possessed far greater skill than he let people believe. His interest in Naruto had surely grown. The Sandaime nodded. The match was truly interesting. It was not only the fight but the things that were revealed during the match. You certainly have a skilled genin in Naruto, Hokage Dun. The cage said again honestly. The Hokage smiled. Naruto was certainly interesting. Naruto did fire-style jutsu at a higher level. He was sure Naruto would give Itachi a run for his money when it came to fire-style jutsu. He is truly skilled. He finally said. I'm surprised that you could hide something like this from the village, though judging from Naruto's reaction he already knew of it and did not seem too happy that you announced his heritage. The cage said, trying to act as normal as possible. He already knew that Naruto was the son of the famed Yellow Flash, the man who stood in his way of becoming Hokage. Sarutobi did not respond. He had his reasons for keeping the truth away from Konoha. He did not have to explain his actions to another cage of another village. I believe you now, sensei. He truly is skilled just like his father. Jiraiya spoke. Now I have to force him to become my apprentice given his skills. Jiraiya said with a grin. Sarutobi responded by chuckling slightly at Jiraiya's words. The Sannin had not entirely believed that Naruto was a skilled and capable shinobi. He had said he would believe if he saw with his own eyes, and now he had seen with his own eyes. Naruto was skilled enough to be called a prodigy. He could not miss the opportunity to be a sensei to someone like Naruto. He'd put much effort into making Naruto his apprentice. Well done with this chapter. The next one, which will conclude the Chunin exams, will probably be updated within a few days. Naruto doesn't have M's, but he will get it. I was planning on giving Naruto Madara's original eyes, the ones he wielded before he took his brother's eyes to gain the M's. And shadow clones, he will use them in the next chapters. Naruto will get to train before Tobi begins with his plans. How he will leave without Jiraiya. That will be easy, won't tell though. I think I have addressed everything. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.